morning. Thank you very much for joining us in person and on Zoom. I'm Dottie Blakesley. I chair the Regional Family Support Planning Council just through the end of the year. So if anyone is interested in serving as chair, please let yourself be known. It really is a great position to have, just meeting people like Jonathan, of course. It's so any volunteers, just make yourself known. I'd also like to introduce Carrie McGrath, who is the Family Support Liaison for the Regional Family Support Planning Council, Kathy Tamburello, who you've already met, but in addition to her question and answer responsibilities, she's also serving as co-chair of the Regional Family Support Planning Council. Mercedes Witowski in the back, who is the executive director of NJCDD, and also with us, I'm very glad to see that Lisa Montalbano, the new ombudsman for disabilities, is here. All right, and Christine Bachter, of course. We always welcome you joining us and coming to our meetings. And they've both made it very clear, if you have questions, just contact their office. But this is a great panel because there are things that are happening in the children's system which I think need to be more discussed, that people need to have good, solid information and know how to access the new waiver. But there are things from the children's side, from the special education side, all the way up to DDD. So it's wonderful that we have Carmen Diaz-Petti, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Children and Services, with us by Zoom. Kim Murray, thank you very much, the Acting Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Education, and of course, Jonathan Seifried, Assistant Commissioner for the Division of Developmental Disabilities. The Regional Family Support Planning Council, you can see the description on your agenda, but we are a network of families, participants. We meet every month. We also have, we also meet with the Children's System of Care and DDD every month. If you have questions or you just want to talk to other families, reach out to us. There is a website link on the bottom of your agenda. Just figure out which county you're in and what your region is. Call us, and we're happy to include you in our conversation and put you in touch with people that may be able to help your specific circumstances. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Carmen. You're up first. It's yours.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Kyoko, I can't see the slides, so I don't know if.
Okay, it's coming now.
Thank you. Okay. Perfect. All right, well, so good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to start today by just giving an overview of our children's system of care, and then we'll get into some of the specifics around the IDD services. So as many of you know, CSUC is our public behavioral health system for children under the age of 21. We serve youth with moderate and complex behavioral needs, substance use disorders, and developmental or intellectual disabilities. Our core value is that the strengths and needs of every child and every family determine the services and supports that will be provided. Services are delivered in the community and should be culturally and linguistically competent. we contract with a wide array of providers to deliver services where youth and families are at the center of their own care. We strive to keep youth at home with their families, receiving services in their communities, in their local schools with peers, right? We know that this is really where children thrive. CSOC services are funded by Medicaid, private commercial insurance, or state funding. If a family is received for CSOC services, and they are not already Medicaid eligible, they will be required to complete an eligibility application. So although our service array is really comprehensive, we don't actually manage or authorize outpatient services, and we don't have the authority over admissions to acute care or children's crisis intervention units, right? The screening centers. Next slide. So Perform Care. Many of you have heard of Perform Care. This is actually our contracted system administrator for CSOC and operates as the single point of entry to the CSOC service array. They have a 24/7 call center. And if a family is seeking services, the very first step is for you to call Perform Care. Perform Care has staff that are clinically trained and will help you navigate our system. When a parent or legal guardian first calls Perform Care, they will complete a brief registration process. Perform Care has to obtain caregiver consent. The licensed clinicians will conduct a focused triage to ensure that they have a good understanding of why you're calling, what's happening with your child, what are their needs, and they will work with you to find the right services for your child. The clinicians that Perform Care will authorize or can authorize crisis intervention services through our mobile response stabilization program, or they may be able to connect you with non-clinical services depending on what it is that you need. Now, just to be clear, Perform Care doesn't actually deliver the actual service. They authorize local providers to deliver that service to youth and families. And then here you'll see, this is the 877-652-7624. That's the number that you would call. Next slide, please. So there's always seems to be some confusion around the roles and responsibilities within our children's system of care. So, right, the Department of Children and Family actually manages 4 major types of services for divisions. The 2 that are not here are services for prevention and our division on women. The 2 here are probably the ones that you are most familiar with. So the CSOC is housed within the department, and it is devoted exclusively to serving and supporting children with behavioral health needs. CSOC works very closely with DCPMP, our Division of Child Protection and Permanency. Oftentimes a family, would have a caseworker and also a maybe receiving services through CSOC, our CSOC service array. Perform Care sits under our division of our children's system of care. And we have three primary services that are provided. And the first is our care management organization. They are the planning and care coordination organization for youth with moderate to complex needs. The CMOs are able to work with families to develop a plan for how to support the youth. They will bring a child and family team together, and basically that team includes any providers that your family is working with, school, other relatives, anybody who knows and understands the needs of the child, to really make sure that we are providing the right service. We are, the CMOs will work with the families to ensure that the services are going well. If changes need to be made, that they're, in communication with the providers and communication with you, and really guiding you through this process. The next service here is the mobile response stabilization services. This is our crisis line, basically. It's 24/7 community response. So if there is, a crisis, and you need, someone to come out to the house, this is MRSS. And this program is available to anyone in New Jersey. And a response is provided within 1 hour. A family can receive the stabilization services for up to 8 weeks. And then post that, usually families, if needed, will be connected with either the CMO or other clinical services. And then the family support organization is really our families with lived experience. They've gone through, right, what, also the system. And so they have a good understanding of, really from a different perspective, right? They're able to share what their experience is and really support families in a way that is different than working with professional, right? I can share that I have a child who has some significant behavioral health, concerns or issues. And this was a service that I used, and I also found it really helpful, especially because, right, you're able to really just talk about how you feel, about the frustrations, and you have somebody there who's been there and done that, right? And so for me, at least, it was really helpful. Now, mind you, my son is now like 30 years old, so that was a long time ago, but I do know that it's still a really great service. Okay, and then DD eligibility and services. We have through Perform Care, family support services, respite, educational advocacy, summer camp assistance. We provide intensive in-home services. There's also guardianship services through the State Bureau of Guardianship for eligible youth with no identified family supports. Next slide, please. All right, so for services for DD eligible youth, services can be provided through till the age of 21. The services can include any of the CSOC services that I just talked about, as well as your family support services, right, which are listed here. Those include the summer camp and assistive technology in addition to the respite care. Our intensive in-home services, right? These include your ABA services and clinical therapeutic services. Specifically around the ABA services, these are focused on decreasing challenging and dangerous behaviors and improving the youth's self-regulating skills, communication skills, and adaptive skills. For clinical therapeutic services, these focus on youth and family and provide cognitive and behavioral strategies to enable youth to function at his or her optimal level. For the individual support services, those address adaptive behavior and skill development for basic activities of daily living, your ADLs, including self-care tasks and fundamental functioning tasks that can enable an individual to live independently in the community. So as with all CSOC services, these services are generally authorized in 90-day increments. Next slide, please. Okay. So before, as you're thinking about transitioning, right, for youth that turn 21 into the adult system, you want to start planning early, right, at age 18. You want to make sure you contact Perform Care to determine whether your child's, DD eligible. You apply to DDD via a full or short application. Now, Perform Care will help you with that process, right? This is, I'm going through this here, but this is something that when you call Perform Care, they will walk you through this process. And here you'll also see contact DCF transition mailbox for consultation. This is for specifically, connecting with DCF, who will also provide you with some additional support. So be prepared because there is, and most of you already know this, there is a lot of documentation that is needed. You will apply for New Jersey Medicaid and SSI before your child turns 21. And of course, as I previously mentioned, if there are no family supports, if the young person needs a guardian, then there is a DCF mailbox where you can reach out to get some information. Next slide, please. All right, so the CSSP IDD Medicaid waiver. So families may contact Perform Care to see if they meet the eligibility requirements. If they do, the family will be referred to the CMO where they will start their application process. There are specific financial requirements that have to be met, and these will be redetermined on an annual basis. So at least one active authorization must, for an IDD, you must have, sorry, for an IDD waiver services. You'll also need to complete an ABD application. Now, it's important to note that youth that are enrolled in MLTSS, Cover All Kids, the DDD waiver or other waiver programs would not be enrolled in, will not be able to access these services, these waiver services here. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's some of the services, right, required for IDD eligibility. I won't go through all of these. We'll send this around, like the PowerPoint will be sent out. But basically, right, you have to be currently DD eligible, right, under 21, resident of New Jersey. On the right, you'll see the eligible waiver services that you would have access to: interpreter, non-medical transportation, assistive technology, your ISS services, your IIH services, social and emotional learning, and agency hired respite. Next slide, please. So in terms of schools and working with schools, so we know it's really important to make sure that we are connecting, partnering with schools through the CMOs and the FSOs. We offer educators and school administrators an opportunity to be part of that child and family team, which I spoke previously about. They provide some valuable insight into, from the educational perspective, what your child's needs are, what their strengths are, so that through this, CFT, they'll be able to continue to ensure that the right services are provided. We have an initiative called Dreams. This is a CSOC partner, with the CMOs and the FSOs and other community mentors that are certified in Nurtured Heart approach. And we work with local school districts to provide training and support and resources that really are to embed trauma-informed care practices in school. So this program, the DREAMS program, aims to support healthy and healing school environments and provides educators with resources and supports to help both with their own job satisfaction, as well as in building positive connections with students and classrooms conducive to student learning. If you need additional information, Perform Care has our website. You can find information there about this and other services. So just, I think for me, the big takeaway is there are a lot of services that you can access through the children's system of care. And there is a lot of support. So don't hesitate to call, even if it's just to get information about, what is available. And when you do meet eligibility, they will be able to really walk you through this process that, as you guys know, can be extremely complicated. So that's all I have for today. I don't know if there's any questions that I could answer at this time. There is a list of resources and your contact information.
Okay, we're going to take questions at the end because I think some of the questions that have already come up will overlap between children and adults. And I forgot to mention that as the panelists introduce themselves, feel free to introduce yourself. Go ahead and, say a little bit of yourself, a little bit about your background. Carmen, I'm sorry, because you will have questions, feel free to share. But we're going to go on to Kim Murray.
Sure.
What? I'm sorry? Okay, one third, please. Do you need this? Do you-
Carmen, just, for people that are not familiar with the system, can you clarify what you mean by a Medicaid waiver? I think a number of people were a little confused by that and the requirement to apply for a waiver.
So in terms of applying for the waiver, hold on, I have, so is the question how to apply, or is the question what the services, what the waiver?
The really basic question, I think, for a number of people is, what is a waiver?
Okay, these are services that really would not be eligible unless you are receiving services through your regular eligibility. So what I'll say is, I'm actually not the expert on this. I am filling in for my director, who unfortunately was supposed to be here today and was not able to because of a family emergency. I do have notes on that, so if you give me a few minutes, I can, I can get that specific information for you.
Sure, we'll come back to it at the end then, okay?
Mhm.
Well, I think we'll hold it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Is this on? Oh, I don't have to do anything? Here I am. Okay.
You're ready to rock and roll.
I will say that I'm highly distracted by seeing myself up on here. I keep looking like, who is that person? Oh, it's me. So I'm going to try to look out here. My name is Kim Murray, and I am currently the acting Assistant Commissioner at the New Jersey Department of Education over what's called the Division of Educational Services, which special ed sits there, our services, mental health services, nursing services, services for students who are migrant or unhoused, or students who are multilingual learners. So we do a lot of those federal programs that support learners. Prior to this role, I've only been doing this since April. When my assistant commissioner retired, I was the director of the Office of Special Ed for the last 4 years. And I've been with the Office of Special Ed since 2011, this turn. I was there. I left the classroom as a special ed teacher, came to the state, missed kids a lot, so went back to the classroom and then made the jump. And as I have extensive experience in special ed, I think this is probably my last gig. I don't see another school district in my future. Okay, next slide, Kyoko. Today, what I want to talk to you about is provide an overview of the Office of Special Ed, kind of talk about this system of general supervision that we are required to have in place, the office leadership, our core responsibilities, and then move into some resources for families, the staff that we have specifically to support families, our website. Then, things don't always go smoothly. Sometimes there are disagreements. What are your options for disputes? And then I want to talk about and give a plug to the Learning Resource Centers. I think you can go 2 slides, Kyoko. Yeah. Okay. So under the IDEA, right, everyone in the Office of Special Education, we are federally funded. So our funds come directly from the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And when we accept those funds, we agree as a state to offer this system of general supervision. That is what they call it. And it is a system that is in place to support all 260,000 New Jersey students with disabilities. Those are our kiddos from 3 to 21. And if you look at all of the puzzle pieces here, again, this is US Office of Special Ed Programs, their graphic for this. We do everything. We do the money, monitoring, compliance, implementation and development of policies and procedures, technical assistance, dispute resolution, data, and then where it says SPP APR, that is federal reporting that we do on predetermined targets. Okay, we can keep going. All right. What's really interesting about the Department of Ed, as compared to my colleagues who are here on the panel, is that we do not provide any direct services to students. We don't have any providers that go into schools. The way the system works, we receive our allocation from the U.S. Department of Ed. We should have that money, if all goes well, July 1. We know how much we're getting. We just have to get it on the 1st of July. So those funds come into us, and the vast majority of those funds are flow through to the districts. We keep a small amount of funds for state level activities, so salaries for the staff and then any projects and initiatives that we are funding. But most of the dollars go to the districts, who are then responsible for providing services. Okay. Great, next slide, please. Oh. And here's our structure. Right now we have 59 staff members. We have a couple that we're looking to fill. The majority of our staff are in Trenton, but we also have folks in East Orange and Wayne, New Jersey. And so I was the director of the office, and I have 3 assistant directors, Nicole Butin, who does all of the general supervision stuff. Right now, she is the acting director of the office. Damian Patino, Dr. Damian Patino, who is an assistant director over professional development and technical assistance. And then Chinwe Osandu is another assistant director, and she manages all of the LRCs, the Learning Resource Centers. And then we have Barbara Hake, who is the IDEA grant manager, who does all of the money for us. I will not go through all of these. It's a lot. But this is kind of each of those buckets, what they do. So under the IDEA grant, right, we do the application, we do the allocations, we make sure that the districts are using their funds on allowable uses. We do monitoring of those funds. General supervision is kind of the meat and potatoes. That's the monitoring of school districts, complaint investigation, dispute resolution, policy development. All of that falls under general supervision. Under program development, we have the website, which I could probably spend a day or an hour taking you guys through the website. We're just going to look at a little piece today. They do a lot of data collection and a lot of data analysis on the PD side. What's happening in the districts? What's happening with our students? Like, what's the data telling us? And also, what are the needs for the staff, for the training needs? We do a lot of in-person professional development with district staff. So communities of practice, we started this, I think, 4 years ago. We had 2 communities of practice. We had one for preschool and we had one for teachers of students with autism. And we're up to about 16 communities of practice. They are always waitlisted. For our transition, our 18 to 21-year-old programs, we run 3 in North, Central, and South. Those are always waitlisted. But we have a capacity issue. There's only so many staff. But that's been a great opportunity for us to bring in experts, for the practitioners to get connections with their colleagues and get some great professional development. And then the LRCs, we will talk about those separately. I have a slide, because Chinwe would not forgive me if I did not plug her LRCs. Okay, I think Kyoko, you can go 2 slides? Yeah. So, we have a staff of 59 people. Most of them are professionals. I think we have about 4 admin staff in the Office of Special Education. But I want to bring, and if you contact the office, any person, any professional could return your email or your call. But we have 2 staff members who I wanted to bring to your attention today. One is Tracy Gillespie. She is the Special Education Ombudsman. Tracy's been in that role, I think, for 2 years. She is a longtime special education teacher. She came to us right from the classroom. So she has a lot of experience. I think she is very good. She's very plain speaking. She's very good at getting to the heart of the matter, and she is tireless in trying to connect folks with the right people, even sometimes running a little bit of interference. So when she's talking to parents, she may say, do I have permission to reach out to the school district? And if the parent says yeah, she'll try to kind of navigate that space. We also have Cynthia Haynes. She was a long time filling in as the acting ombudsman, and she has shifted over into a role that we call the family support specialist. What we saw in the Office of Special Ed, we get about 3,000 phone calls a year coming in, mostly from parents. And what we saw when we looked at that data was nearly 50%. Somebody was calling about, I have a disagreement with my district. I don't agree with this program. I think they're not doing the right thing. What can I do? And so we understand that the attorneys and the advocates kind of have that background knowledge and that experience to navigate what could be a complicated system. So we have the family support specialists. And so Cynthia is there just to help families, no one else, just families, if they want to file for due process, if they want to know what happens with the complaint investigation. She is there to help them navigate how to fill out the forms, answer any questions. All right, our next kind of support that we have for you is the OSD website. It is undergoing, I think, its 3rd revamp. At least this is going to be its 2nd big revamp in the last 4 years. But we have a ton of information. And when you go to the special ed website, you'll see at the top where I have that yellow arrow, parental rights and engagement. And that is the page where we think we have included a lot of things that would be interesting to parents and families. When you go, this is sort of what the page looks like. We have just a little blurb that you're at the right spot, and then we have all of these drop downs, these accordions, that will have information on what we get as a lot of inquiries from families. And I think the next slide just shows you just a little bit. If you were to open up the IEP accordion, you would see the little summary, a graphic, and then resources that can help you. And then there's contact information on here as well. It's a great place to start if you have questions. We update it all the time, and we're really trying to make it a space where someone who is very well versed in the special ed world, maybe their child is in their teens and they have navigated this space for a really long time. What do they need? As well as someone whose child just got referred. And they want, their question is, what's a referral? And then all of the steps that come after. Because it is daunting, it can be overwhelming, it can be emotional, and we're trying to support that. My son is 21. When he was in 3rd grade, he was referred for speech. And I remember this so clearly, like some things get burned in your mind. I didn't refer him for speech, so I was like, who referred him? This is actually non-compliant. What's happening? But I went to the meeting, and I was in a role, I think I was either an assistant director or a manager. Like I had all of the cards, right? And I'm sitting at this meeting with these professionals, and I'm like, what am I feeling? I'm feeling a little intimidated right now. I am feeling like I have no kind of influence here. And so that feeling has stayed with me throughout. And so when we are doing what we do, it is with that understanding. And how can we make sure that parents are not their rights are being protected, but that they are feeling secure in their role, right? And that's a hard thing. That's probably the hardest thing because of all of the emotions. But we are trying, and I think we're making progress. But that being said, it's not all unicorns and puppies, right? Sometimes there is a disagreement, right? Sometimes things are not going the way we want them to go. My advice is to begin at the local level, right? Oftentimes, if you're having a concern with the teacher or the case manager, the director of special services may not know what's going on. And so oftentimes our first recommendation will be, did you talk to the teacher or the case manager or the building principal, the director, right? A lot of times we see parents come, something happened in the classroom that I don't like, I'm calling the state. And there's a whole lot in between that we could probably resolve it really quickly. And that happens a lot of times, not every time. One of the things we can go to the next slide, Kyoko. We've been amplifying and really putting a lot of effort into is our facilitated IEP meetings. So this is a free opportunity, it's a free option to have a neutral third party, a facilitator, come to an IEP meeting. Both parties have to agree, the families and the district. And the role of the facilitator is to keep the main thing about the main thing, right? We are here, everyone is at that table to develop a program that is appropriate for the student. And sometimes the student gets pushed out of the way, right? And so the facilitator does a really nice job of keeping the conversation focused on the student. This is something that right now is optional. We have been sometimes in a complaint investigation situation. Part of the corrective action is to participate in a facilitated IEP meeting to make sure those conversations can take place. If that doesn't work, right, trying to solve it at the local level, there are formal options, mediation. You have a mediator, impartial mediator, they make a binding agreement. Due process is an option if it is the legal process in which a disagreement is resolved by a hearing with an administrative law judge. And then finally, if there is a concern that a district is violating state or federal special education law, you can file a complaint investigation with the Office of Special Education. And finally, here we go, the LRCs. If you have not visited the LRC, the Learning Resource Center, these are professional development hubs. We have 4 centers, one in Trenton, one in Wayne at William Patterson University, one in East Orange, and one in Glassboro at Rowan University. These centers offer training, technical assistance. It's a lending library. We have books, we have materials, you name it, we have it at the LRC, and materials production. And it is for teachers, families, anyone who is supporting students with disabilities. So you can make posters, you can make copies, you can make bulletin boards, you can get materials there. It is free. There is no cost for membership and any materials production. So if you need to come and use the LRC, that is free as well. We used to charge, and a couple years ago we got rid of that because We never wanted finances to get in the way of kids getting what they need. So if you are in the area of an LRC, please go in and take a look. There's a lot of stuff for families there that you can avail yourselves of. And I think that is it for me. So, thank you.
Good job.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan.
Okay. Next up, thank you for joining us, Jonathan Seifried.
I'm going to stand, if that's okay. Been sitting all morning. Shake it out. So good morning. It's a beautiful day to be with you all. Excited to be here. A lot of energized faces, so that's great. So I'm John Seifried. I am the Assistant Commissioner for the New Jersey Division of Developmental Disabilities. I have been in the field for a minute. I started in the 90s. I worked for one of the ARCs, residential case management, and came to the state in the 2000s, and here we are today. So all very good. And one consistent piece that is always very helpful is just, thank you, just how aligned our community is and works together, and that's always been very refreshing. So that said, I do have an agenda to go over for you today. We can, it's on your screen. I'll just go over it real quickly. So I know that Dottie and her team did try to get somebody from Medicaid here, and we're not successful, so you're gonna have to deal with me. I'll do my best. I'm not the Medicaid expert, but I play one on TV. Then I'll do an overview of DDD services. I picked out some specific services to highlight. And then I'm going to go over some slides on our transition from school to adult life. So you can head to the next slide. So first, and I know something that's causing some anxiousness for most people, including myself, and that is the changes happening at the federal level to Medicaid, through HR 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill, OBA, whatever you want to call it. So there are some elements there, and there's a bit of a glare, so I'm just going to move over here so I can see the slide. So CMS did release guidance earlier this month. So we've been hearing about HR 1 for over a year now, and they finally released some more information on that. And this is around the work requirements piece. And the work requirements, just to be clear, go into effect January 1st of 2027. And it's not for everyone, so it's not for everyone's heart to sink. Now, Medicaid in New Jersey is handled through our Medicaid agency. That's the Division of Medical Assistance and Health Services. They're the only state entity that can administer the program. So we do a lot of DDD to help people get on the waiver and stay on the waiver, but we don't do any of the processing for that. So you can go to the next slide. So things for people to understand as we get closer to January 1st. Now, there is a website, I believe it's on a later page, but the vast majority of individuals on our DDD waivers are most likely not going to be affected by HR 1. That is because they're on, generally speaking, a form of Medicaid called aged, blind, and disabled. Okay, there's a lot of different flavors of Medicaid. So ABD, aged, blind, disabled Medicaid, is one. They always use the term may, because there's always some loophole or some fine print that may get there. But for the most part, you're going to be okay if you're there. There's a small group of individuals on our waivers right now who who got Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act expansion category. Okay, that's about 500 people. We serve about 30,000. So for those 500 people, that's a big deal. I'm not downplaying it. There's still a chance the work requirements may not impact them because there are medical frailty definitions, et cetera. So I'm just going very high level. but it's going to be a small number of individuals that are on the ACA expansion Medicaid. Now, we're working with our Division of Medical Assistance and Health Services, our Medicaid agency, to work with those 500 or so people to see if there's another form of Medicaid that they can transfer onto, like age-blind disabled. Each of those cases is very individualized. So we can't say 100%. Like if you went on the expansion Medicaid because there was your income was high or your resources were high, that probably hasn't changed, in the time, and so the work requirements may impact you. But if you can get on another kind of Medicaid, that's the first thing that we're going to do. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so DMAS, as I said, is assessing all of the information that was released by CMS earlier this month, and they do have a web page. It is on the screen there. Kayoko has a PDF of the PowerPoint that can go out, and you guys can click that link. But it's on the Division of Medical Assistance and Health Services website, and they're going to be consistently updating that as new information comes out. Right now, it talks about how a way that people can use their ID cards for their HMO Medicaid program and look to see what type of Medicaid they're on. It's not foolproof. It really has evidently some of the Medicaid cards. If somebody's on the expansion population, it'll have the acronym Alternative Benefit Plan, or ABP, very close to ABD. And I'm not trying to confuse you. It's just the way the acronym's kind of rolled out there. But you can go to that website. It'll tell you how to look at your ID card and see whether you're on the ABP, Alternative Benefit Program Medicaid. If you're on that type of Medicaid, the work requirements in that have more of a likelihood to impact the individual. You can go to the next slide. I think I have one more on this. No, okay. That is my last slide on that. I am happy to take questions at the end. I will do my best. Again, not the Medicaid expert, but I'm very happy to help however I can. So now just sliding in to the other segments of the presentation. So, and this is an overview of our division services. So Division of Developmental Disabilities, we serve about 30,000 people in the community. Less than 1,000 we serve in our developmental centers throughout the state. My division, we serve individuals aged 21 and older who meet eligibility requirements. And to be evaluated for eligibility, a person needs to apply for services. We have applications online. We have a long application for everybody. We have a short application, we call that, for people that have worked with DCF or Perform Care, because we can get some information from them. So somebody, if they were served through that system, can fill out the short application. But they will go through and look at eligibility. That's financial eligibility, documentation of developmental disability, all that fun stuff, and be able to work through. A family member or guardian, friend can help a person with an application, but it's important to note the guardian or legally responsible person for the person has to sign the application. So if the individual is their own guardian, they need to sign that. When a person turns 18 in the state of New Jersey, doesn't matter if they have a disability or not, they are their own guardian at that point. And then once an application is received, a completed application can take up to 60 days to process. We try to do that in a much smaller time frame. We do that within a few weeks. But that's if we have a complete application. If the application is missing some documentation, we will request it, but the back and forth will go on with that. You can go forward. Next slide. Okay, so persons eligible for our services are enrolled in one of two waiver programs. The vast majority of people served on our system are on our supports program. That is a program that provides everyone eligible for vision services is enrolled in, and it provides an individual budget to the individual based on their New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool, and it provides funding in the domains of employment and day supports, and also family supports, and that's like respite, OT, PT, speech, those sorts of things. Then you have our other waiver. That's our more comprehensive waiver. That is our community care program. That has a level of care requirement to it, and has both of the components of the supports program waiver, which is the employment day supports and family supports, but it also gives funding for what we call individual supports, and those are supports used residentially. They can be used in the family home, they can be used in a group home, etc. Can you move us to the next slide? And these are all the services that the division offers to individuals. And as I said, we have 2 waivers. So when you see in parentheses SP, that means that service is only on the supports program, and CCP means that service is only on the community care program. But there's 23 services, if I counted correctly. Don't double count, just trust me. No, kidding. And these are just all the services that we have. I'm not going to go through them all, but we have assistive technology. That could be, an Amazon Alexa device. That could be something to turn the lights on and off in the home. Day habilitation for day programs, vehicle modifications. If somebody has a vehicle and they need a wheelchair lift installed within it, that can fund that. Environmental modifications, installing a ramp on the family home, that can be used for that. So those are just some examples. And now I'm going to highlight some specific services. So if you can go to the next slide. So the reason why I picked these services is we offer and have for many years now a service called goods and services. And those are services that a business provides to the general public, and they would not be a Medicaid provider outside of that. Like they're serving the general public, like Best Buy selling iPads, and they're not going to become a Medicaid provider. So we have an ability to use goods and services to purchase things from them. And then I have other services afterwards that I'm highlighting too that have definitions. But here I'm just pointing out goods and services, and I've made blue use that color here. I'm sorry for anyone colorblind. I should have picked another color actually. But goods and services are equipment, services, supplies not otherwise provided through the community care program or other support, so it can't be provided through our waiver, another waiver definition. And the participant does not have the funds to purchase the item or service, or the item or service is not available through another source. Now, if you could hop onto the next slide for me, that would be great. So this is the part that I wanted to point out. If a provider exists to serve individuals with disabilities, the provider must become a DDD Medicaid-approved provider and provide services, the comparable service as outlined in Section 17 of our manual. But if they're serving the general public, they're serving the general public. It's not an issue there. And if you could go to the next slide. And the main example of goods and services are classes. Previous to the COVID-19 public health emergency, all the classes had to be in person. Now we allow virtual services for I think up to 12 hours a week. And if you could go to the next slide. And I wanted to point out why it's important that if an entity is serving primarily individuals with IDD, we need them to provide services through the comparable service through the waiver. And that is because goods and services vendored are not required to have any of their staff take any division mandated trainings, CPR, first aid, or prevention of abuse, neglect, exploitation, et cetera. They're not required to do annual and biannual criminal background checks on their staff. They are not required to check that staff are not already on the central registry for offenders. They are not required to check the child abuse registry. The staff are not required to take pre-employment or random drug testing. They're not required to complete incident reports, and they're not required to complete driver's abstracts for staff that do driving. You can go to the next slide. Okay, now these are just other services we have within our waivers that I just want to give examples of. So we have community-based supports. That's in our supports program. You'll see later on a definition called individual supports in our community care program. They're pretty much the same service. We just call them something different in each waiver because my predecessor liked to be confusing. So we do it that way. But these are services that provide direct support and assist individuals with or without the caregiver present. And they can deliver, these services are one-on-one with the participant and may include assistance with community-based activities and assistance to, as well as training and supervision of individuals as they learn and perform various tasks that are included in self-care, basic self-care, social skills, and activities of daily living. Move over. Some examples of community-based supports: support from staff to enable the individual to attend an event or take a class in the community, support from staff to assist the individual in participating in activities such as completing activities of daily living, ordering off of a menu, purchasing items, learning cooking, laundry skills, etc. Next slide, please. And now we have another service called Community Inclusion Services. These are also services provided outside of the participant's home that assist the participant in educational, enrichment, or recreational activities intended to enhance inclusion in the community. So examples: small group outings to festivals, museums, book clubs, sporting events, small group leisure activities in the community, small group educational activities in the community. You can go to the next slide. Dayhabilitation as another service we have. Those are services that provide education and training to acquire skills and experience needed to participate in the community. Some examples of those are activities that help participants build problem-solving skills, self-help, social skills, adaptive skills, etc. You go to the next slide. And examples: shopping, restaurants, libraries. It's a pretty expansive example list. Community gardens, etc. Next slide. And just more examples: cooking, classes on skill development, advocacy, assertiveness, communication, etc. You go to the next slide. And this is my last service definition. This is just the equivalent of our community-based supports from earlier. But these are services that are provided directly to the individual with or without the caregiver present, in or outside of the caregiver's home. And they can include assistance with community-based activities, training and supervision of individuals as they learn to perform various tasks. Okay, next slide, and I think we're just some examples. Yeah, examples: support from staff to enable the individual to attend an event, support from staff to assist an individual participating in activities such as basic cooking, laundry, etiquette, etc. Okay, we'll go on. Okay, so those are the service definitions. Now I just have a few slides on transition because we are in the graduation time. So our office, we have a particular unit that works on transition to adult life. We have a graduates timeline that's on our website. And that outlines the steps needed when people are aging out of the educational system and moving into the adult system. And they include timelines in that year before graduation about when to apply for Medicaid, when to apply for division services, when to take the NJCAT, and complete your support coordination agency assignment form. You can go to the next slide. We also have quarterly transition welcome sessions that our Transition to Adult Life unit does as well. And those are held on the first and fourth Thursday of a month, October, January, April, and July. So July's obviously fast approaching. And they are an opportunity to learn more about what DDD has to offer and how to prepare for adult life. You can go to the next slide. We also have Transition Thursdays. And that's our Office of Transition to Adult Life and Employment. They host virtual opportunities for students and families to learn about services and resources available through DD Day. And if you go to the next slide, I think we're winding down now. Okay, and these are, I want to make sure everybody's aware of, and whether you're part of a group or you want to share this with your school district, we do send a letter out every fall to every school district in the state, all 620 something of them, with this information. But what we do is our unit has on our website the ability for a school district, an organization, to request a speaker come out. And what we can do is we can do presentations in person or through a personalized webinar, and they can vary. At the top, the subject matter is navigating the division service system, learning about employment, preparing for a bright future, firsthand experience. So you can, anyone can request a presentation on those topics. We also have family guidance days. And those are, we can schedule 15 to 20-minute time slots during a day at a school for a family to have a one-on-one with a division rep. and they can ask questions tailored for their specific circumstances and needs. And there's a form to request the resource day. And then we also have an information or exhibit table. If there's a lot going on at a school, they're having a parent-teacher night, and they just want an information table there on DDD services that people can go up to if they're interested, and they can do that as well. But we do offer all those. And I think that may be the last slide, and it is. So thank you for your time, and I know we're going to do QA, so I'm going to go sit down.
Before we go to Q&A, I just want to thank the panelists. These are people who've had long histories working with people with disabilities. So when they talk to us, they are talking from a place of knowledge. They know what we've been going through. Again, contact your local region for your local regional family support planning councils. They're a great source of information and support. Last week, Region 1 did a Zoom session on Social Security and work. We had Connor Griffin from the ARC of New Jersey and Adam Kubler from NJCDD. On a statewide basis, we are working with the Ombudsman's Office and the NJCDD in continuing a conversation with a wide array of stakeholders. This is the community blueprint on higher quality license settings. This was a result of the articles that were published in the papers last year on really horrific stories, on unfortunate stories of people who are living in group homes. This is a conversation that includes not only individuals and their families with disabilities, but also agencies providing services, support coordinators, and the state of New Jersey. So contact us. You can, if you lose that little piece of paper with the website, you can call or email Kyoko or Carrie at njcdd.org. I contact them almost on the daily because they are incredibly knowledgeable people, and they're just really nice people, so reach out to them. So now I will turn it over to Kathy, who will do our Q&A.
Okay, so we have a pretty wide range of questions. I'm trying to kind of group them by topic. So I'm going to start with what came up during your presentation, Carmen. People are a little confused about applying for a Medicaid waiver. Can you explain a little bit more about what families are required to do in terms of applying for Medicaid, especially if the family does not qualify due to income reasons? Is the waiver, are you now requiring families to apply for Medicaid for as the child independent from their family?
All right, so in terms of applying for, there are for the CSSP services, for the waiver services. So you have to meet the all the clinical, administrative, and financial eligibility criteria. If you go on the website in terms of how to apply on the Perform Care website, there is a document that was created just recently to really walk parents through how to apply for the waivers. And it does a really nice job looking at, what the process looks like, how you enroll, how you keep eligibility, how if you disagree, so if you apply for a service and you feel that you should have, received it, there's an appeals process. So if you don't meet the criteria, the financial right criteria, you would not be able to access the these Medicaid waiver services.
Okay. Carrie and Kyoko are usually very, very fast about putting links in the chat. So I'm going to ask them to work their magic and put that link that you just discussed in the chat so everybody can see it. Whoops, I lost one there. Okay. All right, thank you. Wait, I have to scroll. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling. And just in the same idea, and really either Jonathan or Carmen can probably answer this, just for clarity, can individuals apply for SSI and Medicaid prior to the age of 18, or do they need to wait to 18?
Generally 18.
Generally 18, okay.
When a person's 18, they also are considered a household of one because, and then the household resource limits income won't be counted as part of theirs. Pre that, they could apply, but then the family income will be used in the determination for eligibility.
Okay, great, thank you. Kim, this one's for you, and this one is one that I've been thinking about as a retired school administrator. How will the federal shift of special education from the DOE to the Department of Health and Human Services affect your department and our kids? So if anybody doesn't know, there's a lot that came out in the last week or so about how the federal Department of Education will switch their services over to Health and Human Services, which, if I'm correct, is under RFK.
It is,
Yes.
yes. Yes, it is.
And we're just all feeling a little upset about that.
Yeah, there was a lot of lobbying around. I guess there was a lot of discussion as to whether OSEP was going to labor or Health and Human Services, and I guess the decision was made to place them in Health and Human Services. At the onset right now, I don't see, for New Jersey's kids, I don't see an issue, right? We don't rely heavily in New Jersey, right? So OSEP is, they give us our funding, they provide sort of accountability around our federal reporting and our data submissions. So on that special ed piece, that will still exist. I have not heard, but who knows, from either our professional organizations or anyone at OSEP that staff was being reduced. So right now, every system that we have in New Jersey is operating. I think for families, the larger concern may be the OCR, and I don't know what the impact of that is going to be, right? For our kids who have 504 plans, if there's a disagreement there, they need to file with OCR. If there's allegations of discrimination, that goes federally to OCR. And it's my understanding that the staffing at OCR was significantly reduced. And so there may be a delay there, but, I'm sorry. No, I don't want to take a call. But, you know, New Jersey has a very robust system. If you look at our special education code, I think it's 133 pages. It is a dense document. Other states have like 6, right? We closely mirror the IDEA. We have a lot of systems in place to make sure that kids are getting what they need. So right now, no alarm bells are going off, and, you know, just, it's the best we can do right now.
Okay, thank you. The questions are coming in fast and furious. I'm trying to categorize them here. Okay, I have kind of several questions that I'm going to kind of lump together here. So first and foremost, I'm going to kind of direct this to Kim and Jonathan. As someone ages out of school, how, as they transition to college, there is no IEP in college. How does the school system support individuals who had an IEP and needed supports and services as they transition to college? And then what can DDD do in terms of supporting an individual who is wanting to go to college?
Well, I will say, when things are working as they should, all systems are go, right? We start having those conversations when the student turns 14, right? When they start attending IEP meetings, as is required, or earlier, if we think it's appropriate. That's when to start having those conversations, right? And in New Jersey, federal law mandates that those conversations around transition start at age 16. New Jersey is age 14 or earlier. And so that is really when we need to start preparing everyone, the parent, the students, that, hey, you're gonna have to start advocating for yourself, because once you graduate, that IEP is gone. Yes, you can get supports, yes, you can get services, but you have to be driving that. That's a huge shift, right, for everyone. So ideally, those conversations are taking place at the district level. We received a grant from the federal government, I think we're in year 3, the DIF grant, and it was aimed at transition, supporting transition for our students with disabilities. What we found is that the supports and the needs vary greatly by district. There's a lot of confusion on the family side with the interaction of agencies. What's DDD do? What does DVR do? What does the... So we're creating this website, which is a hub, which is a one-stop. We're working with those agencies to create this one-stop shop. What do you need? Answer your questions. Here's what you need to move forward. So we think that will be very helpful. Part of that grant was partnering with SPAN and pilot districts and volunteer school districts to develop some targeted transition training based on their particular needs. And I also would encourage families and school districts to try to get to the Dare to Dream conferences each spring that the Office of Special Ed hosts. We host them at colleges and universities in New Jersey because we want kids with disabilities to see a future, to see themselves on a college campus. They are run by the Office of Special Ed in terms of coordination, but everything else is handled by students. We have a keynote speaker, usually someone who is in college or recently graduated, who can kind of share their experience moving from high school into the college space. And then we do a lot of workshops that are student-driven around transition and decision-making.
Great.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. And I would just add on, in terms of how the division can assist, we did actually make an adjustment to our eligibility a few years back, and we have some very narrow circumstances. I said at the top, we serve people 21 and older. Okay, we made an agreement with CSOC, a memorandum of understanding, where if someone's between 18 and 20, and they graduated with their class, so didn't wait, and stay in school till they were 21, and they're graduating to pursue higher education not funded by DDD or established competitive integrated employment, they can apply for services and get services between those ages. So if someone exercises one of those flexibilities there, for school they can use or for employment as well, they can use their individual budget to put some supports in place. I generally see transportation, community-based supports, those sorts of things. I would need one of my colleagues to get into more of the weeds, because what we don't do is satisfy the educational institutions' ADA requirements on their behalf. Mm-hmm. So if they had to do some ramping or they had to provide an aid, we wouldn't do that, but we would provide what service we need to have the person be independent.
Okay, I think that's really important to know. I just wanted a little aside to talk a little bit for a second about something that the council is working on. We have a community of practice for person-centered planning. And one of the things that we have talked about at our last meeting is there are just so many really good things to look at in terms of transitions, resources. But the Bog Center does amazing things. DDD has amazing things. The DOE has amazing things. But I think sometimes it's a little overwhelming for a family to say, well, where shall I go? So one of our upcoming projects are going to be to kind of pull that all together to one thing, and then kind of have a family forum on looking at those in a more coordinated way so that you can kind of link from one to the other. Because there are a ton of good resources out there on transition planning that I think sometimes are just a little overwhelming to find. And I think the Dare to Dream is something that isn't emphasized enough and people don't know enough about. Also, I can't go through this without pointing out something else that the DOE does that I think is very underutilized and is a really great service, and that's the idea of a facilitated IEP. You can contact, and you can jump in here because you can probably talk about it better than I can, but because there are some questions here about, you know, what if a family needs an advocate, or what if, you know, they're not in agreement. One of the things that's there for the taking without having to pay for an expensive advocate is the idea of a facilitated IEP. So you can request that. They're not going to mandate one way or the other what anybody is, you know, they're not going to tell the district what they have to do. They're not going to tell you what you have to do. But they are going to make sure that there's good, effective communication and that everybody is clear and working together in a collaborative manner. Would that be a fair?
Absolutely, yes. And we really have, it has sort of been lurking in the shadows for a while, and we had some contractors doing the work, and they were great. We didn't have enough of them. So we have trained, I think now we have 20 folks trained for this. The numbers are definitely increasing in using Facilitate IEP. We really are promoting it and trying to amplify it, because I think sometimes that honest communication, there's a little breakdown, and that's what starts the disagreement. We're not on the same page. So the facilitators can kind of help try to get everybody on the same page.
It's an incredible resource. Okay, just sticking on the aging out theme. If someone, you know, is looking at DDD eligibility, but they also want to work, how does DDD support that, and how does DDD collaborate with DVR?
Sure, great question.
The Division of, I'm doing acronyms, I'm sorry. The Division of Voc Rehab.
I did it too, sorry.
Yeah, I know, we all do it.
So thank you for the question. Well, we work very closely with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services. In terms of division services, Division of Voc, DVRS is the first dollar in, I always put it that way. And they can be accessed through the school district as well. If somebody's looking for competitive integrated employment, they can make referrals there and start work while they're still, before they've graduated. So they don't have to necessarily wait until they graduate. But regardless, if they waited or they were still working with them, once they are eligible for division services, if the person's looking for work, and work is a spectrum. We have, you know, pre-vocational, career planning, supported employment, because it's not everyone just goes right into work. Some people need to build up and kind of work towards that. So what we will do, though, is work with the individual, and if that service is supported employment mainly, we will need to refer over through through DVRS. And if they accept the person, they will provide the supported employment service. And at such point as the person, I'll use the term plateaus, they've kind of exhausted their benefit through DVR, DDD can fund the ongoing supported employment service. But the point is DVR has to come in first. If DVR declines to serve, for whatever the reason is, then we can put supported employment in place. But the point is we have to refer to DVR first and go through that process. But we can provide the supported employment service directly through the division. Yeah,
Okay, that's great. I just want to read something that was put in the Q&A, not a question, but as a professor, if a student goes to college, they can, if they choose, sign up so professors know that they need accommodations and which ones they need. This person works at Montclair State, and the individual's relationship with their professor is important. It is not mandated to do. This is a choice that the student would make. And back to Kim's original point about transition, I think one of the things that we have to be sure that we're including in a transition plan is self-advocacy, so that so the kids know as they age out that they have the ability to go to people and say, this is an accommodation that I need, this is what's challenging for me. And that's sort of all part of growing up. A lot of people struggle with that. But I think it's really important that we work with our kids to help them to do that. Okay, so let me click that one out of here. And okay, well, thank you, Denise McLaughlin, who said, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I have no idea. We are glad we're helpful. I'm going to go through a few other questions. So this is sort of a series of questions, Kim, that I'm going to try and put together.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot here, but that's okay. What is the department doing to reduce the number of families? Well, this is sort of back to where we are. We kind of answered this. This was, what are we doing to reduce the need for families to provide for private advocates or retained attorneys? Can I throw in something,
Sure.
having
Sure.
been a school person?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
There seems to be a belief that you have to go in screaming and fighting. And I think what you really want to happen, as someone who was a school administrator and also a parent of someone with very significant disabilities, your first line, I think, is to go in and try and build a good collaborative working relationship and to understand what the school district can do and should do, and be clear about what you are asking for. And that's where the facilitated IEP comes in. I can talk a lot about when I was working, how somebody would come in all angry and upset that we didn't do something, but they never asked us to do that, or they never told us that that was a priority. And it's that collaboration of how the school team sees your kid, how you see your kid, and how you talk about that together that makes for a strong school
Yes.
experience.
Absolutely. I mean, that relationship is the key.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is a relationship, especially if your child's coming in at age 3 and they're in a district until they're 21. Yes, there may be different case managers, there are different teachers, but it's still a relationship. And New Jersey, shocking, we are a very litigious state. Folks love to go to the attorney, like, first thing. We're trying to get away from that, right? We're trying to get to what are ways we can improve communication? What are ways we can help? Facilitate IEP is a great one. There's a center called Cadre. I cannot remember what the acronym stands for. It's the Center for Something and Dispute Resolution. They are the federally funded TA center for states around dispute resolution. And they did a pilot. They offered, you could apply, states could apply, and I believe there were 6 or 8 states that were selected. New Jersey applied, we were selected, and it is how we can work with the local school districts to help them create avenues for solving disputes at the local level, right? So we're working with SPAN, they're one of our partners on that. We have local districts who have a high number of mediation and due process cases, that's what we were looking for, and working together to come up with processes and opportunities to reduce that. So we're always looking at what we can do on the local level, but it really doesn't start with the state, it starts at the local level, right? Developing that relationship with your teacher, right? Like, talk to the teacher. If you don't understand something, right? I had parents who would write the superintendent every single time they had an issue. They never asked me. Ask me. I'll tell you. I have everything. It didn't need to go 5 levels above me. It didn't need to start there, right? You might have to elevate it if you're unhappy, but like, start at the local level.
This is a follow-up on the idea of the facilitated IEP. Is prior written notice provided to students IEP case manager to start the process for a facilitated IEP.
No.
No.
No. You can just request it.
Yeah,
Either party, family can request it or the district.
okay. Okay, I'm going to finish this little series here.
Oh, gosh.
And so I think there's a question here, and I understand this question. How can New Jersey ensure that children with less visible disabilities, such as receptive language processing, executive functioning, or learning difficulties, are identified before families feel they need outside experts? And that kind of goes to the idea of an independent evaluation as well. I think this was yours, right? I think, and you can jump in if you want. I think there's a lot of confusion between what a 504 is going to do and what an IEP is going to do, and what a medical diagnosis is, and what an educational classification is. And we can't really
Do all
go
of that
right now.
No.
But I will just say that on the NJCDD website, there is an IEP 101 presentation that you could go back and look at, and some of those issues are discussed in that. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Genesis. I'm a self-advocate. My question is, you said there was an ombudsman for special education, but is there a college ombudsman for
That
students?
would be, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think it would be, because we only work K through 12, or preschool through grade 12. That would be higher education. There is a Department of Higher Education, and I don't know if there is an ombudsman there.
I don't know either, but I will say that almost all colleges that I've ever dealt with have an Office of Disabilities. So that would be definitely a place to go to. And then, of course, our, oh, yes, I see.
Yeah, if I can put my 2 cents, only because we have a parent who has a child, well, an adult child, who's in college, and she went to the disability services. She was very welcome and everything else, but they have the assumption that all the accommodations were going to be communicated to all the professors. You know, the wake-up call was like, from one semester to another, you have to actually give to the new professors the accommodations, because they not necessarily know the accommodations that you have. So either you have to advocate that you're good at it, or you have to go to the office just to make sure that all the professors receive the accommodations. That's it.
And just really quickly, Kathy, talking about the last question, I think, you know, in New Jersey, we have 260,000 students with disabilities. The majority of those students have a specific learning disability, or they have a communication impairment. That's probably 70-75% of our students. And when it comes to supporting students who don't have a visible disability, I think that comes down to what's happening in the classroom. How are we collecting data? How are we progress monitoring? What do we do when a student isn't achieving like we think they should be? What are the interventions in the systems that are in place there? So we do a lot of work with the tiered systems of support, right? What's great instruction look like? Because every kid is a gen ed kid first. Every kid deserves great instruction and great supports. And it's when that isn't effective that we move up and maybe think about classifying. So,
Absolutely.
Gabrielle Bohan, I'm a member of Regional Family Support Planning Council number 1. Just to specifically answer the question that was asked, there is no ombudsman for colleges, higher education. There are assistants generally in the colleges, and then there are other avenues if you are having an issue with the college. But there is no ombudsman like we have in special education, or the ombudsman for intellectual and developmental special needs.
All right, but try Bergen Community College. Sorry, I know I'm always doing an advertisement for BCC, but I've been on the Board of Trustees for BCC for 22 years, and we have a terrific set of services, and they communicate with the wider campus.
Okay, so moving on, there's one here in the Q&A. Will there be an impact from HR1 work requirements on an adult with IDD who receives Medicaid through New Jersey Workability? What is the rationale behind requiring a premium to be paid by such an individual who's using Medicaid Workability for DDD supports? Doesn't this mean that the individual is, in effect, paying for their DDD services out of the minimum wage earnings? This is a very complicated question. Out of the minimum wage earnings they have achieved in their part-time employment. This seems wrong if New Jersey is a work first case. State.
Okay, I can take an attempt at that one. So first off, just, I know I said it at the beginning, but I'll just say it again. I don't work for the Division of Medical Assistance and Health Services, so I'm not there, so I can't go it. I don't know all of the background and everything. I do know about workability and the premium. So first off, workability, if a person is on that type of Medicaid, it is possible the work requirements will impact them. I think by definition, workability is if you're working, but if you're working on workability, you may already be meeting the hours threshold. So, and I think it would be a individual conversation with Medicaid about like how that does impact you if it does end up impacting you. And on the other side, which I'm probably less helpful on, and that's the premiums, I do understand that when they expanded workability out a few years ago at this point, maybe it was 2 years ago, but they did do a sliding scale based on the person's income and did come up with, you know, I guess more a higher payment depending on what the person's income is. So while I know that occurred, I can't say what the stakeholdering all was around it, but I do know that is the case there. But workability is there and designed for people who make income above what the income level is for Medicaid to be able to access a Medicaid program. So beyond that, unfortunately, I don't have a lot more I could say on it.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, this would also be directed at you. How can a person who has behavioral support needs be supported in the community with a qualified BCBA? What are the steps DDD is taking to make sure the reimbursement rates for BCBAs are looked at, and I would think to be competitive?
Certainly, great question there. And I think that, well, for people that may not be aware, there is a law that went into effect a few years back that requires licensure of BCBAs. It's the Licensed Behavior Analyst Licensing Act. And for division-funded providers, May 6th of 2027 is the deadline. That's when that goes into effect. After May 6th of 2027, only a licensed behavior analyst in the state of New Jersey, this is not a DD decision, this is what the law says, only the licensed behavior analyst can complete a functional behavior analysis and write or update a behavior support plan. So essentially, only licensed behavior analysts can do behavior programming after that point in time. So the licensure process is already in effect. It went into effect before. There are licensed behavior analysts in New Jersey now, and we've been telling all of our providers that we work with to work with their BCBAs and make sure they're applying for licensure. I have talked with agencies that hire or employ licensed behavior analysts, and it's not hard to get the license. They said it was under a month. They did the application. They sent the fee in. They got the piece back. So just wanted to start out with that. That is the law, May 6th of 2027. I'm just reminding every agency that I see. I know you guys aren't agencies, but if you work with one, let them know that there seemed to be a feeling in the system that the division had a choice in the matter, like whether or not we were going to do that. We do not have a choice. We follow the law. The law is licensed behavior analysts. As for what we are doing in that regard, we are working as hard as we can, as well as other divisions related to the workforce there. Now, licensed behavior analysts are already a requirement in other segments and sectors of the state, and I am not hearing outcries that they can't hire people and they're not able to give services. That's not to say we shouldn't worry, but it is to say at least we're not seeing that aspect of it at this point in time. And in terms of what we're doing for funding, I mean, we go to the legislature every year for a number of different things and request funding in those areas that we feel we could have it. But I do want to make it clear, the division, we cannot unilaterally see a rate that we think is an issue and just add funding. It's not how this works. We have to go, if we're seeing a deficit, we have to forecast what we want the new rate to be, forecast what that will cost, go to the Office of Management and Budget and request that, and that has to make through the legislative process, the governor's process, which is tying up right now for fiscal year 27, which starts July 1st, to get a budget signed. So I'm not able to do that. If we could do that, we would solve a lot of problems a lot quicker. And it's something that we continue to look at. We did not get funding for fiscal year 27, which starts July 1st, for increased rates for behavior analysts. We didn't get funding for increasing any rates. So I would say if you're hearing as family members and advocates from people you're working with saying, hey, the rates are really low, we have to have a problem, please also advocate. It never hurts when we're asking for funding if the governor's office, OMB, have heard it from other places as well. If they're only hearing it from DDD, while they try to give it deference, just logic would dictate the thing they're hearing the loudest cries about are the things that are going to be on their radar. So it'd just be very helpful to make sure that that's getting communicated as well. So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Kim, this is a question I see as an issue. A lot of what you have broached related to dispute resolution is at the local level. For districts that may be at a socioeconomic disadvantage, how does the department engage underserved communities? I can add to that families that can afford advocates will get them, but not everybody can do that. The facilitated IEP certainly is one avenue that needs to be publicized, but what else can you add to that?
Well, again, at the local level is where we're going to start. And then, the system is, if there's a dispute, certainly contact the Office of Special Education, right? If you're talking to the ombudsman can run a little bit of interference. She can reach out with permission, right? A lot of times, people are looking for, like, what could I do? But I don't want you to do anything yet, right? So please contact, if you've reached out at the local level and that is not effective, reach out to the Office of the Ombudsman and she can help you, talk you through it, maybe reach out to the district, try to do a little troubleshooting there. Facilitate IEP is a free option. Mediation is free. You do not have to have an advocate or an attorney. And that is a less rigorous process than due process. It's a little less formal. Yeah.
Okay. There are a ton of questions here. I'm just going to say right here and now, we would probably be here till about 7 o'clock tonight if we got to all of them. We're going to keep all of them, and we'll try and reach out after the fact for those that we don't get answered. So I am going to now go to this one.
Say Jonathan, say Jonathan.
Carmen.
Actually, Jonathan. How is the division taking steps to protect individuals from the proliferation of approved goods and services providers offering high-cost services such as life coaches, providing emotional support and emotional regulation, or a vendor, quotes, insisting only certain tiers can access the class. Business offering class restricted to tier A and B, because of, I'm just reading this as it's written, because of scissors and sharp tools and safety concerns with higher tools, business insists they can, I can't read the last part, I'm sorry. But can you comment on that?
Sure. Well, goods and services is an area we are looking at. We look at everything. We get calls about various things, and we look at a lot of different services. But goods and services is something we're definitely looking at in that regard. And I think the first the first line there is the individual and the family kind of looking at that, like, does this seem like it's a exorbitant cost? Is this a service we really want? Because goods and services requests, I mean, we're approached by the division. The person's found X goods and services provider. They would like to use it. We have a service review team who reviews it, make sure it meets the service definition. And we don't delay and spend 3 months doing a review. We go to the website, we make sure it meets the criteria. If it does, we move forward. What we have found is, as time progresses, like if you're hearing something like we only serve tier A and B, huge red flag. I think that's a problem overall. If I had an DD agency saying I only serve people on lower tiers, I would have a concern there too. So I'm not trying to pick on one place, but tiers are, just it's the tier the person has assigned. It's not meant to say they can't have access to a service. But what we have found in some cases is, and that's one of the service definitions I looked at, is we're finding we're spending a lot of money on this service and we're looking at it and it sounds like a day rehabilitation center, like everything they're doing, all the services there, or community inclusion or community transition services. And through goods and services, they're charging an exorbitant rate there. So what we'll do in those circumstances is review that, talk with the agency, and have them explain to us, like maybe we're missing something. And we're not always right. That's why we start with a conversation there. But if it really can't be, if the main line of business for that agency are people with disabilities, it's not a goods and service. It's meant to be agencies that wouldn't be working with our population outside of it. And if you lose if your main source of revenue are people with IDD, you're just by definition not goods and services. You're just not. And we have found some instances where for the right reasons, I don't think people coming into things with nefarious intents and trying to game anything, but this really has to be billed through a different service, so we do work with them. But if you see approved goods and services provider, that in and of itself is a flag. Anybody can be an approved goods and services provider. ShopRite can be an approved goods and services provider. It's not a special band. These are services that the vendor otherwise would not be a Medicaid provider to provide. And they're already serving the general public, and now we just want them to serve people with disabilities. So I could go on. I could talk a lot longer about goods and services, but I'll pause there.
Well, the goods and services opens up a lot of doors.
It does.
For people. My son uses goods and services for swimming lessons. He goes to a swimming school that is open to the public, and he's getting swimming lessons as an individual with a disability. This one, I'm going to kind of group a whole bunch of things together here, and I'm going to ask each presenter this kind of individually. So I'll start with you, Carmen. The gist of it is, what do you think families, what services do you think families are in need of that you're not able to provide right now, or there's not enough of? And what do you think they'll still be looking for, which I think is an interesting question 5 years from now? Where are the gaps, and what are the things that need to be advocated for at this point in terms of, so we'll start with Children's System of Care services.
So before I answer that question, I just want to answer a question that I happened to see on the chat around MLTSS and CSOC services and
Okay, yeah,
kind
there's
of being,
asking you to clarify that.
yeah, ping
The
pong.
question, just so everybody hears it, that question was, families sometimes are getting bounced back and forth, and there's maybe a little bit of finger pointing. It should be MLTSS, it should be Perform Care Services. What is the difference, and how can we ensure that families are getting the services and not just getting pushed back and forth between the two?
So what happened was that there was basically an administrative issue with the way that this was designed, which families got right, like just stuck in this back and forth. What I will say is that we did some work at the earlier part of this year that should have resolved that. For those individuals that are still being balanced back and forth between, right, MLTSS and CSOC, and this is really specifically around ABA services because MLTSS was managing non-CSOC, non-CMO involved youth, and then there was a subset that was services were being authorized by the CMO. So if you're still experiencing, like I said, an issue accessing the services, email the CSOC director's mailbox that I think was already posted in the chat, and they should be able to help you get to that service or the person who can help you with that service.
And I'll just put an explanation point on that. If you have any concerns about the children's system of care services, that's the services you get through Perform Care, the director's mailbox is your first line of defense. So
Yeah.
we hear a lot that families are frustrated with the services, but they have not reached out to the director's mailbox. So please use that if there is an issue with any of the services, not just the question of MLTSS, but any of the services, whether you are working with a CMO and you're not getting services or the services are not meeting your needs, whatever or the CMO is transitioning you out of services, whatever those concerns are, it's important to document them through the director's mailbox. So please use that as your first line of defense. And then just like with the school system, you can move up the chain of command from there, but that's where you want to go first. So now we'll go back to the original question, Carmen, which is where do you think there is a need for more services? What do you think families will still be looking for? What are we advocating for at this point?
Sure. What I can tell you that one of the requests that we get very often, that we are a lot of the times challenged with resources is around out of home supports. So when the needs of a youth become so so acute that they need an out of home placement for a longer period of time, we do have some contracted providers that are able to meet those needs. However, they are nowhere near the amount of beds that we need. And unfortunately, we have had to even go out of state for like some specialized services, which is something we don't want to do, right? We want to have our children close to home so families can visit, so they can, continue to participate in their treatment. So this is one of those areas that, I think that I'll say the solution to it is really not to build more beds, right? But to build more community supports. And I think that there are some evidence-based programming out there that I think we are, well, not that I think, that we are going to be looking at. That's really what we're focusing on. Wanting to make sure that we're providing, high quality services that have demonstrated positive outcomes. And that's really around, really looking at these evidence-based programming. And I think I answered your question. Am I missing a part?
Just a little commercial for the council right now. The Regional Family Support Planning Council has a DCF, Department of Children and Families Collaboration Committee that meets monthly. Please become involved with your local councils, and if this is an area of concern for you, become involved with that committee, because the committee's mission is to elevate family voices and to have a collaborative discussion with the CSOC, Children's System of Care people, so that they hear what the needs of families are. And I think what you're saying, Carmen, is there needs to be somewhat of a focus on preventative, getting to families before it escalates to the point that they cannot maintain their child at home. Kim?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I would say along the same lines that Carmen was talking about, we get a lot of calls from both the district side, definitely from families. We see it in the trainings that we do. Mental health issues and mental health supports for students who may also have an IEP. Oh my gosh.
You're very popular.
In the tiki room. Now you guys know what, she's one of those Disney people. But we see a lot of questions around how are we supporting in a really comprehensive way our students with mental health needs, right? We have students who are coming in and out of intensive outpatient or partial hospitalization or a hospitalization program and bouncing back 6 weeks later. How are we supporting those students as they transition back in? How are we making sure that district staff are empowered and have those systems in place? Often those mental health issues are leading to chronic absenteeism for students, school refusal, right? Districts want kids in school. If they're not in the classroom, we can't teach them, we can't support them. So it's really those mental health services and how are we coordinating from the outside providers, the supports in the district, and then what's happening at home.
From my experience, I see a real issue with kids that are dual diagnosed, that have IDD and also intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health challenges, and that is definitely an area that's in need of focus. Jonathan?
Certainly, thank you for the question. And, I think there's a theme between all three of our divisions. The area that we work on a lot of areas, but the area that comes to mind when we talk about this are behavioral health stabilization services. So individuals don't need to languish in a short-term crisis facility bed, or psychiatric hospital. That we're able to put them in the community somewhere to receive that stabilization. And we've taken some steps because we recognize the lack of network in that area. But we, a few years ago at this point, opened up community-based behavioral health stabilization programs through YAI. They're active now. We have 2 4-person programs, and we created a 5-person program at New Lisbon, the acute behavioral health stabilization program. We've also, in January 1st of 2025, through a multi-year process with a lot of different stakeholders, some stakeholders in the room actually, revamped all of the direct support professional training. We had about 30 hours required for direct support professionals, and that was doubled essentially to about 60 hours. And we did that on January 1st of 2025 is when that went into effect. And the logic there was, just a well-trained and supported workforce is just a better workforce, and we're trying to help in that regard. But those are the areas that we're really looking at on the behavioral health side.
Okay, so it is 12 o'clock, and there is, my whole area here is covered still with questions. We are going to coordinate these, and we will follow up on them. If we did not get to your question, I am sorry. It just shows that this type of conversation is needed and very valuable. So I'm just going to kind of close us up for today by saying, first of all, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Carmen and to Kim and to Jonathan for your active participation. I think there's so many more questions that we could be asking. And, we'd like to just hold you for the whole weekend, but I'm sure you do have some other things to do. I think if nothing else, this event today illustrates the need for continued conversation and collaboration. One of the ways for families to do that is to participate with the Regional Family Support Planning Council. So if you are not a council member and want to know a little bit more, want to know where your local council is, please go to the NJCDD website, talk to any of us, Dottie, Kyoko, myself, Carrie. We can also direct you. But I think one of our missions, one of our true missions is to elevate family voices and to foster that collaboration. Because if we don't have that give and take on an ongoing basis, if these very dedicated people don't hear the family perspective and how it translates for a family, they can't make the decisions that are really going to help and support families in the way they need to be supported. The council is actively advocating for changes in the system as we see them, but we also are actively participating in getting information out there. Just like we're going to take all of those transition resources, which there are a ton of, and put them in a collaborative way and do a family forum on that. We want to make sure families can easily get to the information. So please consider participating in the council. We do these quarterly statewide, so on topics that we think are critical to families. So please, again, I apologize if we didn't get to your questions. I'm not going to throw out any of those papers. I'm going to take them home and kind of put them together, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's a beautiful Saturday morning, but your participation, both online, those that are virtual, and those that are you here in person, you make this a meaningful event. So thank you very much.